G'day and welcome back. I wasn't going to do another Hemingway kit straight away, but I'm almost at 20,000 subscribers. A little while ago I made this one that takes the big dies, and I was going to make up a reducer to take the smaller dies. If and when I get to 20,000, I'm going to give this one away. This is the original one I made. There is nothing wrong with it. It works. It takes the small dies, big dies, just got an adapter in it. It's nothing wrong with it. It works quite fine. This one that the Hemingway kits does have a clutch in it. Bit better design in a way. Going to have a crack at making this. Now, the chap who gave me all the Hemingway kits has redrawn the plans for the die holder in metric, and he has made a couple of alterations to it as well. So I'll be building it off his plans, not the Hemingway kit plans. So I've got all the gear here for it, but there is with this new design, there is a couple of pieces that you require, but we'll come across that. I've got some material there that'll do it. But yeah, once I reach 20,000 subs, I'll do a giveaway, and we'll just put that in a giveaway and probably throw a hat and so on in. So if you're interested in having a crack at winning it, I'll sort that out later anyway. So that's what we're going to do. Start on this, because I've got to go for treatment next week. This sort of project I can start and stop. I've got a little bit I've got to do between now and then, so it'll probably take a few days to get this done. I hope you enjoy the video. Hopefully I can get this video half decent. Righto guys, let's get stuck into it. Okay, the first part we're going to work on is these clutch cones. So they've got an inch hole, 25.4 in through the guts. They've got a 30-degree cone in there. That has to be a really, really neat finish. So in the lathe I have got it to dimension. We're good to go, I'd say. Okay, it's just got to have an inch hole through the guts to start with. Okay, this has got to come out to an inch. Okay, set up an indicator, this will be the final cut. So 24.32. So 25.38. I reckon I'll just bit of emery in there and that'll bring it out to the 25.4 and be close enough. Okay, I've just gave that a rub with some emery. We're right on it, 25.4. I can just feel it nicking the anvil. So now I've got to set the compound over to 30 degrees and cut the first cone. This outer dimension here has to be 44 mil. At the moment we're sitting at 44.2. So I'm just going to come in and take a tiny bit off there back to 44, and when I cut the cone it's not going to be accurately measured, but I can turn all this in one go afterwards. There's a little land left on the end here after you cut the cone, it's just so I can get a close measurement of that. Point 1 to come off. That should be spot on 44. That's not bad. We're on the money. Okay, I've got to set the compound now to 30 degrees and then cut the internal taper, which will form the drive cone. I reckon I'm going to take the time and change out boron bars. Okay, I've changed over to a solid carbide boron bar with an aluminium insert because I want this to be an absolute beautiful finish, but I don't know if it's going to work or not. I'm going to give that a polish up and see how that looks. That's certainly polished up alright, eh? That one's done for now. There has to be a couple of features put in the opposite, or in the back here, at a later time. But I'll take this one out now and make this again. I need two of these, obviously. So I'll do the next one off camera. Okay, so we're moving on to the next part. Now the material for this one isn't supplied in the kit, in the Hemingway kit, so BYO. It has a 30-degree taper on it, a 22 by 1mm thread in the guts here. That's where your die goes. So there's a few different diameters in the guts here. So I'm just going to work through it. I've got a bit of material in the lathe and I've brought it to dimension that way, not lengthwise yet, because I just have to part it off. There's going to be a bit of fiddling around in it, but we'll get it. I'll get it right, I hope. This first dimension is going to be 20.5mm. So last night when I was in editing, I didn't realise that I didn't show that I had both these, the second cone made, so they are exactly the same in all dimensions. Took me time and got the second one absolutely spot on. These new mics, they are absolutely beautiful to use. Yeah, 20.51, just under actually, so we're well within spec. I'm pretty happy with that. 2.75mm in from this face has to be opened up to 25.4. That's what I'll do next. 25.4, 1 inch. Okay, I've got a couple of dial indicators set up. One down here on the, got the Noga set up down on the carriage as a stop. Another indicator, the only metric indicator I've got, set up on the cross slide. I've got to open up from this face, which it's only going in there a fraction on that 20.5mm bore. Got to open up to 22.1. And 2.1 on the money. Shit hot. Another thing, I've got the Noga base and a T-cock indicator set up down here. I've got a really cheap metric indicator set up on the cross slide. There's not a shimmer in that needle when the lathe's running on the T-cock with the Noga arm. This one here, that's a decent base but real cheap clock, and this needle just shimmies all the time while it's running. And you can see just by twisting the top of the stem, you're getting the variation. I've got to do something about getting a decent metric clock one day, but just convert everything over to Imperial and just, yeah, these Nogas are shit hot. Matched up with a decent clock, you don't get much better. Alright, it's time to cut this thread, 1mm pitch, and just going to wing it and hope for the best. So once the lead screw's in gear, it won't be coming out of gear. It looks good. Righto, I reckon that's it. I hope so now, because I've disengaged the lead screw. But I'm pretty happy with that thread. Came out pretty good. Okay, now this has to have the matching 30-degree taper put on here. So running your lathe in reverse, and I haven't moved the compound slide since I've cut the first initial taper. I've polished this up. I've still got another a couple of thou to come off, but I polished up so sort of finish I could get before I went any further, because I don't know what this material is. Now, I was using a carbide bore and bar, and I was getting a horrible finish. I tried 3 different types of inserts, and they were all the same. They were just crap. Even the aluminium one just didn't want to turn. Real light cut, bit heavier cut, just didn't want to do it. So I changed over to the big bore and bar. Yeah, that took very minimal polishing to get to that effect there. Just going to take a smidgen more off it, and then that's it. Go the right way, dickhead. Okay, I'm going to give that a polish now, and that should be done. There we go. That don't look too bad, eh? And looking at the clearance at the end of the taper in here where it goes to the flat, there is it lines up pretty darn spot on. I'm stoked with that. Okay, it's going to be bloody tight, but I've got to part this off. I've measured in 36mm from this end. Now I've got to clock this back in and turn the feature in this end for the die. I'm not concerned about jaw marks being in here, because when it's all together I'll lock it all together, and then I'm going to turn the outside dimensions, skim them off, polish them up. Okay, the next bore has to be at 38.2mm wide and 13mm deep. Okay, this die should slip in here with ease and have a bit of room. That's if you don't jam it. So it's got enough room now if I want to spread the die that little bit, and it's flush with the end. I'm pretty happy with that. That's pretty neat. So the end result, thread in there, couple of shoulders. So yeah, just remains three set screws, 45 degrees from each other, and the plain safe and one from underneath. I think that's to hold another adapter for later on. I think there's a bit involved in that part, and I'm trying to hit all the numbers 100%. So far so good. Okay, we're up to this next part. Now there's not a lot to hang on to once you start machining it, so she's just thinking about it. I might try and choke it up just on this here with a bit of tailstock support, I reckon what I was worried about was whether I had enough room because I've got a fairly fat end on the doesn't sound right, on the live center, but I think I'll be able to use the live center. I won't have a drama. Okay, I have put a mark here. This journal here has to be down to 25.4 to start with, and then reduce down again on the end for the 22mm thread. So we've got a bit to come off, so I might bring you guys back when that's done. Fraction, yeah, what do they call it, micron? I don't know what they call it, tiny bit. Okay, I've done a bit of polishing. That one fits on, and the second cone, beautiful. A good result there. Now I've got to turn this portion down, this end portion, to take the 22mm thread. Well, for the thread, for a 22mm thread should be 21.97. We have 21.98. It's close enough. Okay, on the plans it says there's a tiny relief in this front edge. I'm just going to use this tool here. I'm just going to straighten it up. I'm going to plunge in. I'm going to touch off on this one, plunge into the same depth and just come up to this shoulder. So that's what the plans say. Well, not exactly, but we'll make it up as we go. That is threaded on. I end up turning the camera off. I end up cutting the thread at 300 RPM on the spindle to get a nice finish on that thread. But I had to be careful when I come up to this shoulder in the thread. I had to retract the tool fairly quick so I didn't collide into it, and luckily I missed it every time. So I got pretty lucky there, and the thread turned out bloody beautiful. And wind it all the way on, spin it up. It's all these registers in here are aligning it, everything perfectly, so really happy. What I have to do now is cut the 30-degree cone on that end there. So I've got the big boring bar back up again, and I'll just gnaw away at this. I might probably, you've seen me do the cone before, I'll just do this part off camera. Okay, I've got that cone done and polished up. Now, full disclaimer, I was a millimetre too long on this shoulder here. Anyway, I just took a millimetre off it, and now it goes up. As you can see, they're spinning. They lock up. They lock up nice and tight. So the idea when you put it together is you put some Loctite 680 or 680, whatever you got, strong shit, on that thread. Lock it up tight, then back it off. just so you've got a little bit of play in these two cones, and what the lever does, it'll just bias one side or the other. So I think that's how best I can explain it. What I could do now is, why it's in that configuration, it spins good. I could come along and skim this one, this one, this one, and do this one last on its own. Pretty darn happy with that, I can assure you. Before this part that's actually in the chuck can come out, it's got to have a 5/8 reamed hole up the guts of it. Look at that. That is absolutely salubrious. So I'm not feeling too bad today, so I'm going to go and have my dinner. Come back and set it all up on this journal to put the recess in to hold the die. Okay, I've got to open this up now. Just got to check the plan to take the small dies this end. Okay, it's going to be taken out to 25.2mm, 9mm deep. I was just about to say I was finished, but I'm not, because I've got to reduce down from this face back 9mm down to 36.5mm. And that should be 36.5 there, close to 36.49. Okay, so this comes with a machinable arbor, Morse taper 3 arbor. It's got to have a 10x1.25 thread put up the end, and a register machined on a 12mm register machined on this end, 5mm long. Actually, come to think, I might tap that hole first, because it's going to get pretty thin, I suppose. I'll just tap it anyway. I'll just start off with the tailstock and then do the rest by hand. Okay, so what I did off camera before I started that, this is the matching part to it. All it is, it's got a 10x1.25 thread, 12mm register, and a through hole. So this is going to register onto this part, and it's going to have a long set screw in that's Loctited into this end, and then this screws on, Loctites into it, becomes a solid arbor and registers off this point. Like I was saying, this set screw, it's a long one. So it's pretty long. It goes in there. It'll get Loctited in. So we just nip it up for now. Then this one will go over top. Like that. There you have an arbor. And then all this can slide on either way. That's basically what we're going to be looking at. Okay, what I've got to do here, these are the drive, or this is one of the drive cones. It has to have a slot, so when the handle goes in, yeah, it just holds you can say the clutch fork in. I've got a 3/8 cutter up. The hole has to, the slots have to be at the 7/16 when it's finished. Okay, that is that. Need to deburr obviously, but with this setup I can take, because I know these two parts are exactly the same dimension on the OD. I can take this one out, put the next one in, and I'm right to go straight away. So there we go, both them slots are done. They don't look too bad. So now I've got to make up the selector fork, if you want to call it that. The actuating fork, I think it's called in the plans. Okay, so the easiest way to explain the actuator is to draw it out on the piece of material. So we've got 2 1/2-inch holes. I've got a drill and ream here, so that'll give me the radius in the corner, neat radius. And I don't know whether you can pick it up where all the hatch mark is, that's all got to come out. So we're just left with this outer shape. So what my plan is, put in the mill and take this rectangle out of the guts, and then I'll stand it up on its end and come down and take this section here out. I think will be the easiest way. I'll bar a hole, there's got to be a hole for the handle. I was going to use a 1/2-inch reamer, but I've got nowhere near the height I need, Z height, so I'm going to have to do it with a 1/2-inch end mill to try and get a nice corner. Yeah, right, well, stuffed up a couple of spots there, but I think I can blend it all with a file. Stuffed up my offsets a little bit, but anyway, it'll be okay. Rightio, we've got to open up this gap in the middle. So I've worked out where I am in the centre, moved over, taking into account the tool. So I've got to cut through there and then move over the same distance the other side and cut through there. And then we should be almost finished this part. I've got another bit of plate. I'll bring you guys back when I am done. Right, a bit of an update on my screw up part. I ended up going, instead of putting a 1/2-inch hole in the top corners, I put 1/4-inch hole in each one. But now I've got to take it out, stand it up, deburr that bottom side, and I've got to put that, attempt to put that gap in there without doing that again. I'm going to be cheesed if that happens, I tell you. Okay, I know I've sort of jumped forward a bit and taken all this out without showing on camera, but just got to reduce the width a bit. So the easiest way is with the fly cutter. That's what I found anyway. Bit of fly cutter action. Now Never fails, eh? Gotta love it. So that first cut that I done to take the scale off was 0.3 of a mil. That one I just done then was 0.4. So what I'm going to do is just do a probably a 0.05, and should get a nice finish, and that's all on that one insert. It's taking a bit of a flogging. Nothing wrong with that on the same insert, and I've already done the other side. It copped a flogging over there. They hold up them little cheap ass inserts. You know, take this out, deburr it, rub it with Scotch-Brite, and we're done. It fits. It's got to have play in it so it can rock backs and forwards. That's probably a little bit excessive, but I'm not making a third one. I'm in two minds whether I stuff around radius these corners or just buff them over with a file. I'm just more inclined to knock them over with a file because I'm lazy. All we've got to do now is put a hole in here for the handle, and a little bit of turning on the handle just to bash a thread on it. Oh, machine down the end to fit in the hole in here. So that's going to be tomorrow because I'm absolutely knackered. Okay, the handle, it's very simple turning, down to 5mm one end, M6 on the other, that's it. Okay, so there's the handle. I single point threaded that end, just so I can get a nice fit on the ball, and that will eventually be Loctited into there. Okay, next thing you got to do is set the rotary table up and put the holes in for the hold the dies. Been putting that off for a while, but that's the last thing I've got to do, so I can't put it off any longer. Rightio, so the last piece of this puzzle, we have to put 3 holes 45 degrees from each other to hold the die on this end and on this face here. M6 here, M5 here. So I'm just going to do one end at a time. That's that end. I can tap them by hand. I'm going to do the same down this end, so I won't bore you with that. Them set screws come out pretty nice. That's done up tight. They're not going to be quite aligned when it's all together because I've got to back it off that fraction, but it's not going to hurt. So there is an option to make with these material 2 adapters to take different dies, but between this one here, which takes this, well, it takes the small ones, the medium ones, and all my other dies fit in that one. So I can't see the sense in making the adapters yet. I've cleaned all the parts. They've all been cleaned with brake cleaner, all the threads and so on. It's time to do the final assembly. Loctite it together. I have gone ahead and Loctited that handle onto the actuator. Yeah, once it goes together, it don't come apart. So what it says is to put it together like that. Instructions. And then you put a couple of drops of Loctite on this cone, on this thread, sorry. Screw it home until they are locked up. And then back it off until the actuator until the arms let go. Wait for it to set, then she's right to use. Slide this up its dot, whack it in your tailstock and into it. So we better put it together. Should have done this part first, would have been finished a couple of days ago. So I'm pretty happy that everything's clean. I'm not going to put much Loctite on it, just a little bit. Just in case it does, for some unknown stupid reason, it's got to come apart. It's probably not a little bit. So it's locked up. Sorry, I'll be out of camera there. That's free. So I'll just leave that set now. We'll come back and we'll give it a test run. It's a pretty neat looking tool, but actually quite like it. Rightio, I've got a 10mm die in there. Just machined down a bit of scrap. I've got no idea how this is going to perform. I've got no idea. It could be just a total failure. Who would know? But the test will be to see if it goes on. Clutch definitely works. We'll try reverse. That worked. It'll take a bit of getting used to this handle. It's not something you're sort of used to all the time, you know. Run up there again and see if we can neaten it up a little bit with a bit of pace. I just actually sped it up to 170 RPM, that last bit, and it actually threaded easier than it was when it was going slow. So anyway, it's got a thread on it. This thing worked. The clutch definitely works. I'm actually pretty impressed. So it definitely does work, that clutch. It's just, for me, it's going to take a bit of getting used to because I'm not used to having a handle to push on. I don't know how hard you can push on this handle before it snaps or whatever. So yeah, it's going to take a bit of getting used to, I think. Righto, that's another tool done and dusted. And thank you very, very much to the viewer that sent these Hemingway kits in. Thank you again. And thank you very much for these modified plans. These plans really, they were really good to do, because working up against tight tolerances where everything had to align properly to get it all running concentric, that was a good bit of fun. And anyone who wants to go and buy the Hemingway or thinking about buying a Hemingway kit to make this, definitely. It's a very enjoyable build. There's a bit of work in it, but it is an enjoyable build. Now, this one here, like I said, when I reach 20,000, I will give this one away. Someone will be lucky enough to win it. So hopefully when I reach 20,000, which I'm getting at, what I'm on 19.6 now or something. So when I reach 20, then I'll do a giveaway, and someone can have this one, because between this new one, which takes both size dies, and this one here, I'm covered. I've got enough die holders here now to never worry about die holders. But anyway, thank you very, very much for watching. You guys be watching this on a Thursday. I would have just not long probably getting home from having another or second bout of chemo. So see how I go next week for a video. I'm probably going to be feeling like shit for a few days. Well, I felt like shit for a few days after the first one, so I'm thinking the next one's going to be the same. But that's just part and parcel of this crap. Just got to roll the punches. Anyway, thanks for watching, and much appreciated. And thank you for all the support you guys have been throwing my way too. I'm very humbled. I honestly never thought the amount of support I've got, it's absolutely mind-blowing. So thank you. Righto guys, hopefully I'll see you next week. Hooroo.